I'm the best ever. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me.
Yo, bounce guy, go off.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
Wilder's in a world of trouble, closing seconds. Can he weather the storm here in the third round?
And of all the superlative.
Big right hook, lands flush for Cambosos, and that knocks down Teofimo Lopez. We have ourselves a fight.
Khabib Nurmagomedov gets a triangle choke from up top. Gaethje's out, and the fight is over. The triangle choke for Khabib Nurmagomedov.
And Porter gets knocked down. He gets knocked down again. 10th round TKO win. Left uppercut, and that knocks out Leo. It appears he's out cold. The fight is over. It was a counter left uppercut, and just like that, what a left uppercut. I did not see that coming, ladies and gentlemen. I will have to admit, what a fight.
Nice celebration for a 3K video. I don't know, man. To hit 3,000 subscribers in like
Right hook to the body for Campbell. Left hook to the body for Garcia. And that knocked down Campbell. It was a left hook to the body. Campbell on the ground. The count is on. Can he make his way up? It appears he can't get up. Campbell on the ground. Trying to stand up. And the fight is over. Ryan Garcia with a 7th round knockdown. What a performance. Guys, if you haven't, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers. Do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up. We're trying to do record numbers today. Ryan Garcia tearing up and crying. What a performance for Ryan Garcia. Check, 1, 2. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. We are finally back. #1 commentary channel on YouTube. Welcome to the stream. We're finally live, and today we have an action-packed day. Plenty going on. Steve Williams in the building. First one in the chat. What's up, Steve? Says, let's go, Miller. 999 in the chat says, well, I lost 4 fights on the entire thing, so not bad. Rare. I mean, we all have our bad days. I can't really relate to that. We've been sweeping all these cards, man. I mean, if Johnny Walker, if that fight would have allowed to continue going, then I really would have swept the card because he was on his path to victory. We'll talk about Johnny Walker, Ankalaev, and more. Steve Williams says, Usman did well coming off the couch to square off against Hamza. I have an unpopular opinion on that. For one, I agree with you. I think he did more than well. I was actually impressed on how well he did. And imagine if it was a 5-round fight. You see that conversation being had a lot, Steve. If it were a 5-round fight, perhaps Usman wins. Hamza Chimaev, great fighter, was very dominant at 170. But I think it's going to be a little bit tougher for him and completely different at 185, Steve. So we'll talk about that some more. I would like to see Strickland against Hamza in a title fight next. The rumor is that he hurt his hand. He might have broken his hand, and I made a short on that recently. Let's see if they give him the rematch Or let's see if they give him the match, Sean Strickland versus Hamza Chimaev, or if they skip him over. I don't know if they're gonna give him enough time to heal up, so we'll see. But I wouldn't mind seeing that as well too. If not Sean Strickland, then I wouldn't mind Dricus du Plessis. Chris Faith says, since Kamaru Usman is only 3-fight losing streak, I think he should just take a break. However, if he wants to continue, he has to fight the winner of Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Wonder Boy Thompson. 1 second, chat.
I'm the best ever. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me.
Yo, bounce guy, go off.
Sorry about that quick little interlude. Chris Faith says, hey, yo, Hito. Chris Faith in the building, 999 in the building. Hollywood Hito says, I haven't seen that. Shoot the link to me on Discord. Did y'all see that video on why Sean's guard is so low? It's actually a pretty valid reason. Valid reason on why he nullifies the takedowns. And maybe he gives Hamza more trouble than expected. Islam versus Charles in March. What's up, Jesus? Welcome to the stream, man. Thank you for always coming through. We went live a little earlier than usual. Let a couple people get in here. Make sure you share the video. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. I'm very excited today, guys, we've been doing this more frequently, and we plan on doing this even more. So we've been trying to interview fighters. We've interviewed Alex Caceres, Johnny Campbell, John Duma, who has just attained the title at Combat FC. Even Alex Caceres has been doing quite well in the UFC as well too. And today's our first, I guess, our inaugural, you could call it, female fighter, our first female fighter that we are able to interview. We're going to be accepting some live questions, so be out on the lookout for that. She is currently, if you guys don't know who she is, her name is Glory Watson. She's currently 5-1. She lost her first professional fight, and ever since then, she has been on a tear, 5-fight winning streak. Won a good amount of matches in the amateur scene as well too. But she's a professional now, 5 wins in a row. And I want to ask her a couple things, especially her last fight was I encourage you guys to watch it in the future. It was against Hillary Rose, where it seemed as though maybe she was even having some trouble as far as in the striking department, or maybe just getting caught with more shots than maybe she wished. This is just my speculation. I'll ask her about it. And it reminded me very much so. I don't know if she saw the Shevchenko versus Grasso fight, but Grasso makes one mistake. Shevchenko makes one mistake, and Grasso jumps right on her back, gets a rear naked choke. It was something similar to that. She saw her opportunity and she took it. And I was impressed. And I can't wait to see what else she has in store for her career. So she'll be on in a matter of minutes. What time is it now? It is 11:56. So we got a few. We'll give her some time as well to prep and get ready. The fact that you say he was on the path to victory is crazy.
Shout out to Caesar, man.
Listen, I think he was about how can you call it? I would say 2 minutes before landing something big. You saw where he faked the where he got hurt, and then he actually went for like a flying knee. He didn't get it, but I'm saying something was gonna land for him. Guys, hit the thumbs up if you're new here. Hit the subscribe button. We'll also be doing fan questions as well too. So any questions you guys have for her, I didn't mean to repeat myself in that aspect, but I want to encourage you guys, because last time we did that as well, and it was a lot of fun. We had a blast where fighters and the people in chat got to know the fighter, and then we actually went all the way out to Wilmington, Massachusetts, and we were able to watch the fights live. And then we were able to do a post-fight interview, and a bunch of people have become fans of John Duma, fans of Jake Pilla, and I think we're gonna keep trying to grow the regional scene, and these fighters will head into the UFC because they're all promising fighters. So I'm excited to have a conversation. But Hito, not crazy at all. 999 says Usman regretted for not taking the Chimaev 5-round fight. If it was a 5-round fight, man, I mean, gun to my head, if it was a 5-round fight, who would win? Who would have won on Saturday? I would say you might have to go Usman, man. He was picking up. Hamza Chimaev looked winded, breathing out of his mouth, just looked completely tired. And that was the same thing in the Gilbert Burns fight. He looked extremely winded, and Gilbert Burns started to pick up, but then the fight finished. Did he get saved by the bell again, or by the limiting factor, that being only 3 rounds? It's tough to say. So shortly enough, let me actually send the Zoom link in a second, and we'll get going, guys. Thank you so much for the ongoing support. We're inching away at 8,100 subscribers. So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Gonna send this to myself, then send it to her, and we'll get going with the interview, guys. So thank you for being here. In the meantime, feel free to add any questions in the chat. Give me 1 second. Writing to myself. Bang, bang, bang. Gonna send a Zoom link, and we'll get going shortly. The beta quest was in Discord and a few other of you guys, so let's go. Copy link, and it's 11:59, so let's send this over, and we'll get going, guys. Join whenever you're let's see. There we go. Should be a lot of fun, guys. Sorry for the delay. Should be a lot of fun having a conversation live on stream. I'm excited for this one, guys. I'm excited because this should be a good combo to have. I send you voicemails to you. Yeah, I'll make sure right after the interview. So right after the interview with Glory Watson, we'll play voicemails, and we'll respond to people's reaction of UFC 294 like we usually do. If you guys were looking forward to doing that, 267-545-8096. You can share your thoughts on UFC 294. We'll either play it on today's morning podcast, or if not, tonight. So should be some fun. During the interview, if you have any questions, post them on here. I'll get them to Miller. Yes, sir. I met Mattress Mac at the ALCS game. It was a last minute thing. Listen, just not to get too off topic, but we win tonight and we go to the World Series. So should be some fun. Does UFC give Volkanovski a pass for late notice? Volk looked not in fight shape. He looked a little flabby. I know that's speculation. The funny thing is that we went somewhat viral in our last short. I don't know if you guys were able to catch that, but we went somewhat viral for basically saying that the card overall was a 5 out of 10, and people thought, oh well, you're a Volkanovski fan, so you're just hating on Makhachev, you're hating on all the Dagestani fighters. And if you literally watched 2 videos before that, I predicted that Makhachev will win. So I just think the overall the card was lackluster. The doctor kind of messed it up in 2 separate occasions. The most significant being Johnny Walker versus Ankalaev. The doctor asked him, do you know where you're at? He says, yes, I'm in the desert. Maybe somewhat of a language barrier. But that fight gets stopped. That was a sort of anticlimactic. Then you add to that too, Volkanovski versus Makhachev. My argument, I believe Hito disagrees with me. Maybe a few of you other guys, but Jesus, my issue was with the first fight being so competitive. Am I impressed that Makhachev got the knockout victory? Absolutely. For someone that he went 5 rounds with, to then get a head kick, that's probably the best outcome for him. I thought I was going to see a war. So entertainment value wise, it wasn't the most entertaining. Glory, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can.
Cool. I can hear you. Thank you for coming through. Guys, without further ado, 5-1, currently on a 5-fight win streak, headlining on November 11th at New England Fights Glory Days 55. Glory Watson is joining us on stream. Glory, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for being patient with me. I'm 2 minutes late, but I did my best.
I get made fun of for consistently being late all the time on stream. When I schedule something for 7 p.m., I show up at 7:03. It's a bad habit.
Oh, I'm the same way. If I have something planned, I have to tell myself to be there 15 minutes early, and that way I can actually be there on time.
We're soldiers of the same struggle. So thank you for being here. For me, you're on time. The way thank you for being here. 5-1 Glory Watson. Thank you for coming through. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's just I'm sleepy today. It's just we're 3 weeks out, I think a little less than 3 weeks. So it's starting to hit in the middle of camp. So, but we're doing it. I already had my morning session, and so I'm ready for the day to keep going.
So you're 3 weeks out, just about. How is camp going so far?
It's been pretty good. I took a pretty long break for me. I think in my first 18 months of training or fighting, I fought I
Mm.
think 6 times, something like that, a lot. And then I just took it'll be 9 months to the day on fight day that I took off, which is, I mean, I didn't take it off.
Right.
I still did 2 sessions a day. Um, but it was just slightly different. We kind of focused more on the strength conditioning side. So I've put on a lot more muscle, so losing the weight has been a little bit different this time around.
Mhm.
So we're going to see what happens, but it's still moving, just not as fast as it normally does. So that's a little bit stressful, but other than that, camp has been great. I have an amazing team of people behind me right now.
So two-sided question: has it been a little tougher, maybe losing the weight as you would have expected, and also, but in spite of that, do you feel stronger? Like, how exactly do you feel physically?
I feel stronger. I notice it. Excuse me. I notice it when I go with a lot of our boys or our guys.
Mhm.
And actually I notice it going with some of the women that I train with as well. It definitely has made me a lot stronger, and my body fat percentage is I don't know, maybe 2 or 3. When I started camp, it was probably 2 or 3. Wow, I can't talk right now. 2 or
It's
3% lower than it was before. So, I'm very optimistic that it's going to make the water cut side of it a little bit easier.
And going into this fight, I saw last night your last two fights, which I was very impressed with. One being a split decision, the other one being by rear naked choke. Can you talk to me a little bit about those two fights and what were the differences in those? Because one went the full distance. Maybe you learned a lot from that. The last one, in the striking department, it was getting interesting until, to me, you saw an opportunity. It reminded me, I don't know if you saw the Grasso versus Shevchenko fight, the first one, where like it seemed like to me, I was talking to a couple of friends, that you saw that opportunity and you jumped on it and got the rear naked choke right after that. So how did that fight go for you mentally? What did you learn from specifically your last two fights?
So the last two, one of them was at 125,
Right.
and then one of them was at 115. So when I fought Gabby, which is 2 ago, it was at 125, and I felt small.
Hmm.
She incredibly strong, just an absolute animal, and on the ground I'm used to even going with people that are a little bit bigger than me. I'm used to being able to be pretty active, and she was really doing a good job of keeping that control there, making it difficult for me to be as active as I normally am. And I actually came into that camp feeling pretty sick. I was
Okay.
starting to have like some like chest congestion. The cut week, it was the worst cut I've ever had, and I was 10 pounds heavier than I normally am. It was pretty brutal. So coming off of going from that fight and then going to Hillary Rose, who had actually before I fought Gabby, she
They
fought
fought it,
Gabby.
right. They fought each
Yeah.
other. Yep.
Yep. So fighting her, it was one of those, like when there's someone that you look up to and you fight someone that you looked up to. It's that weird feeling. Because I watched when I first started, she was pretty like big locally, even at that point. So I watched her fight. I think the first event I ever went to, I watched her fight for I think the 115 amateur
Mhm.
title. So I was like, oh, I want to be that. Like I want to do that. So fighting her, it was cool. But also the nerves that you get just from like being in there with someone that has so much experience and is doing really well and has the drive to continue to go somewhere. It was very different, but I think it kind of like lit a fire underneath me and really allowed me to pull out whatever I was able to pull out.
And you said that at one point, I didn't know that you kind of sort of looked up to her. But what I saw is you bring a crowd with you, and and she looks very comfortable in there. You did as well too. It almost seems that as far as in the regional scene where you're at right now, you're kind of gaining momentum, gaining notice. Can you talk to me a little bit about the support you also get behind the scenes to prep for these fights?
Yeah, so my fan base is pretty awesome, pretty amazing. It's pretty big, grows every single time.
Yeah.
I like to fight in where the fights are right now. They're in Bangor, and I like to fight in Bangor because I'm
Right.
from that area. And I usually get a really big turnout, and I get a lot of support from like anyone that's gone to the NEF fights. I get people like I get recognized out and about, and people will be like,
Mhm.
"Hey, you're Glory Watson. I watched you fight. Like you're awesome. It's been cool watching your fight career." So I get support from places that I didn't even know I had support.
Right.
So, and then I have an awesome team of sponsors that really make this possible. If it wasn't for like sponsoring like sponsors to any athlete, most athletes wouldn't be able to do what they do because we don't make lots of money at all.
Right. It's
Very
tough in the
little.
beginning. Right.
Yeah,
No,
it is.
absolutely. And as far as your support, also, I was watching your YouTube channel, and I specifically saw your mother and your sister, I believe, as far as how proud they are of you. And I believe your sister says something along the lines of she sends you the same text before every fight. She doesn't know if you see it or not. What does she think so far as far as the way your career is going?
She makes jokes, and she's always like, "I'm still mad that you haven't armbarred somebody." Because
Okay.
when we were kids, my dad was started training, or my stepdad was training some jujitsu at like one of our local gyms, just kind of on and off. And he learned how to do an armbar, and he came home and he taught me. And I used to do it to my older sister all the time. So she's like, you've had a lot of practice doing it, and I want you to do it in the cage." So she like will joke around and all that. But my family is incredibly supportive for something
Good.
so wild and crazy. They're really supportive.
And you haven't pulled off the armbar yet, so maybe you owe us that. So speaking of you starting young and maybe fighting in your childhood, playing around, when was it when you had your aha moment, for those that might not know you in chat, where you said, you know what, I could actually make this a career, make this a living. This is actually what I want to do.
I'm still I'm still not sure if I have yet.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, I know I absolutely love this. I
Yeah.
know that every single time I fight, I feel better about myself, better about where I am in my life, and I I would love to make a career of this, but
Absolutely.
it's the hardest part is it's not entirely my choice. I can
Yeah.
go out and put on an absolutely amazing performance, and the person I fight is better than me.
Right.
Someone could catch me because I make a small mistake or a big mistake. And the being able to make a career of this is so hard because the trajectory is so fragile in some ways.
But under pressure, and especially or specifically the last fight, one of the commentators said an interesting thing. He said, you smiled, and he said, Gloria is smiling right now. This is when she's at her best. So what that leads me to believe is in the heat of the moment, or like when stakes are high, you seem pretty comfortable. Is that a smile where behind the scenes you're nervous, or is that a smile like, all right, let's get this going? Like, what exactly are you thinking? Because it seems you do that quite a lot, and then you perform well right afterwards.
Most of the this is stupid. I'm gonna openly say it. Most of the
Right.
time, it's because we'll like throw the same punch at the same time, or we'll throw the same kick at the same
Right.
time, and I'm like,
Hmm.
haha, that's so
Right.
funny. We thought the same thing. So like, I
Hmm.
start laughing, and then I like smile, and I'm like, this is really fun. I'm so glad I'm doing this, and then I just get in the swing of things, and that's
Yeah.
where it is. It's where I do my best, is when I'm just having fun.
No, that's incredible that even in the midst of both of you guys maybe trying to rip each other's heads off, you're you're enjoying it. So maybe I think that's a sign, at least to me, that maybe this is what you're supposed to be doing. That is what you're put on earth to do. Now, we usually do a segment in we're live streaming right now where we have fan questions. So you're gonna be under the spotlight a little bit, kind of fire rounds, okay? Are you
Okay,
okay with that?
I'm ready. Let's do
All right,
it.
cool. So we'll try to fly through them. We got a few of them. First fan question: what was your worst injury?
Ooh, it actually was right before the Hillary fight. I was training. It was maybe maybe 2 weeks, maybe a little less. And I was training, we were doing some like stand ups off a takedown, and I went to stand up and my knee went big loud pop. Everyone in the room froze. It was so loud, and it was probably one of the scariest moments I've ever had training. And it was pretty bothersome. It actually, up until it bothered me through the fight, it bothered me the whole time. But as soon as it happened, my head coach, Coach Chris
Mhm.
Young, you could see he was like, that's it, like her knee's blown out. And I remember I was driving home. I'm like, I can still do this. Like I can do this.
Wow.
I think it's okay. I can still do this. And I went out and I was still able to perform. And I think that that was a major mental hurdle that people struggle with, because it wasn't blown out. It just hurt. It was
Mm.
uncomfortable. It hurt, but it didn't hinder my movement. It didn't lock out. It didn't give out, anything like that. It just hurt. So being able to go out there and like put on one of the better performances of my career was still, it was amazing. So
A-
not the worst thing that's happened, I guess.
And they say that most of the time, you could tell me if this is true, that fighters almost always go into a fight with some kind of small hiccup or injury, something that they're dealing with. You're on a 4-fight win streak before that fight, and then you have perhaps the worst injury that you've ever felt. Were there moments of, because you said I can still do this, were there moments of doubt when you're maybe walking right up to the octagon, or is that all out the window?
It was out the window.
Mhm.
I think I've talked about it. I talked about it very early on in my career, that like you get nervous and you're kind of trying to feel everything out, and you make the walkout, they lock the door and you're like, okay, everything's gone.
Mm.
Any like you have a headache, gone. You have like my knee hurt, it's gone. As soon as that door locks, you're like, it's time. It's time. So for me, it didn't really have an effect on my performance. And it was just the mental struggle at the
Mm.
beginning, and then being able to push through that.
And we'll talk about that finish later as well. But more fan questions. The next one is, how long have you been in the sport?
Not very long. I'm a baby. I think I've been actively fighting a little over 5 years. Um, and then training, I trained for a year before my first fight. I don't remember when my first fight was. I have a terrible memory. I get punched in the
Mm.
head for a living, so
Right.
I can't be responsible for
Mm.
remembering anything.
Did you go into the gym? Was it for kickboxing specifically, jujitsu? What was it before you actually kind of, switch gears and said, I'm gonna do this full time? But did you just go into train as far as to work out, or?
I actually reached out to one, it was my mom's best friend when I was growing up, and
Mm.
she was training. I was like, "Hey, are you still doing that?" She's like, "Yeah, why don't you come in on Friday?" So I went in. I was really athletic or competitive in high school. I played high school sports. And then actually right out of high school, I got into training for bodybuilding. And I got a pretty severe injury, or I got pretty sick. So I wasn't able to do that. And I put on a lot of weight. I was around 170 pounds when I first started at the gym.
Yeah.
And maybe for a week, I was like, all right, like this is fun. I showed up when there was class. And then after that, I was like, this is awesome. And I showed
Mm.
up twice a day, every day. And I still do twice a day, every day. And I still love it.
No, interesting. Great. I got another one for you. We got
Ooh.
plenty. People are excited to ask you some questions. So here we go. The next one is, what are the challenges and benefits of training in a rural state like Maine?
Okay. So we'll go challenges first.
Mm.
There's a lot of talent here, but it is very spread out.
Okay.
It's not, we don't have like a central area where we have a lot of talented athletes, but we have athletes in 2 hours north, west,
Right.
can't go 2 hours east, or you're in the ocean, but
Right.
anything like that. So there is a lot of talent here. So that it's not all together is kind of difficult. We do travel a lot. I put a lot of miles on my vehicle. I spend a lot of time with my head coach in the car, and most of the time he hates me, but that's okay.
Right.
Um, so that's definitely one of them. And I think, what's the word I'm looking for? There's not a lot of knowledge in the area about the sport.
Okay.
There's not really anyone specifically trained in weight cutting or in working with an MMA fighter from a recovery standpoint. Right now, I'm trying to like we're really trying to foster that in the state and create something special here with different groups of people. But that is one of the challenges of being so small. Um, Benefits, it's small and we all really like each other.
Right.
And right now we train, like I said, there's people 2 hours north, south, all over the place, and we travel, and every single person that we train with has been absolutely amazing. No, we haven't had any issues at all with anyone. Everyone always has a great attitude, always brings something different to the table, and that's just massive. And the state of Maine, we are loyal to a fault. So like people go to a gym and you're just so loyal to it. And once you meet someone and you really engage them and you connect on a an athletic level, really from training, you end up pretty loyal to each other. So I'm pretty lucky in that regard.
No, and that's great. I mean, being in from a smaller state, not maybe known for MMA, you could put them on the map. And being a female fighter, you actually bring that unique aspect. The next question for you is: in what areas do you feel like you're improving the most?
Mm. These are good questions.
Yeah, they do the job for me. So like,
I
which is
know,
nice.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say probably my striking would be where I feel like I'm making the most improvements, because that is where I feel the least comfortable. Um, I'm very hands-on, so I like the grappling side of things, because
Mhm.
when you're hands-on, you can kind of feel how people move, and I'm learning a little bit more how to do that by controlling the distance with striking and when to come in, when not, and all of that. And I think that was things that I needed to work on early on in my career. Um, and I really think that I'm making some improvements in that.
Is that why, as far as against Hillary, you could have maybe tried to take it to the ground earlier, but it seemed like to me you were trying to stand toe to toe, and that's exactly what you did, and you were willing to exchange. Is that part of the reason why, trying to get more comfortable in striking, or is that just too early to say?
No, I think that's pretty accurate.
Mm,
Being it really is, we want to be more comfortable on the feet. You get a
right.
call up to the higher level, and if you're going with someone that wants to stay standing and they don't want to get taken down at that level, they're not going to get taken down.
Right.
So you have to be comfortable everywhere. And I think every single fight I get closer and closer to being at that point where it's just as comfortable as the grappling for me.
And to commend you, it was fascinating. I hope I'm not butchering this example or similarity, but again, Grasso and Shevchenko,
Mhm.
it was like a split second. It looked like to me as if she was drilling when she got to the back, when she got the rear naked choke. It was like second nature to you, as far as when she kind of turned her back, like it was a mistake in hindsight, and you saw the opportunity. And I guess that goes to show your training. I guess you're a gym rat. You're in there all the time, because as soon as that opportunity presented itself, it's almost like, oh, I'm going for the choke. I'm going for the back, the body lock, the takedown, and then you got the finish.
Yeah. So I spoke with someone that was in the other corner, an
Mhm.
old teammate of mine, and he said that she was out back practicing the spinning elbow. And he told me after the fight had already
That's
happened. So he was like,
right.
she was hunting for that spinning elbow, and so when she went to spin, I really capitalized on that. And I am pretty comfortable in the clinch.
Yeah.
Again, like the physical contact, so I'm pretty
Right.
comfortable in the clinch. And I actually, what, 4 out of my 5 pro finishes have all been rear naked choke
Mhm.
and from the turtle position. So
Yeah, you still owe us the arm bar, so
I
I'm,
know.
I'm gonna tell your sister, like I'm gonna keep hassling you about that one. But as far as the rear naked choke, and you saw that she was practicing the spinning elbow. You said that was someone like an old training partner, not even your coach, that saw her doing that. Who was that
Yeah.
exactly again?
So we had a member at our gym. His name is Aaron Lacey, and he used to be part of our gym.
Mhm.
And he actually transitioned to another gym in New Hampshire. And so they
Okay.
were in the opposite corner. And after the fight, he like came over and he gave me a hug, and he was like, she was practicing the spinning elbow out back.
Ah,
So
that's
it was cool. It's kind of like having, and again, like loyal to a fault, having someone in the other corner that was like, hey, you did a really good job. She was really hunting for that. So that was really cool.
No, that's so cool to hear that behind the scenes like moment, because it did set up your win, your last win, and now you're 5 wins straight in a row. The next question for you: do you think? And I like this one because I saw your post fight interview. But do you think you'll get a call from Dana if you win this next fight?
I would like to say yes, but I think it all
Right.
depends on how the fight goes. It all depends
Yeah.
on I think it's not necessarily if I win, I think it's if I perform. And if you
Okay.
perform the way that Dana White wants to see, someone who's going to put on a show, be entertaining, that's what he's looking for. Because how often on the Contender series does a fighter lose and still get a contract because like, oh, they're really doing something special. And so I think that I want to say maybe, but we'll
Mhm.
see what happens. I'm gonna
No.
do my best no matter what. That's just like it's like I have the whole cake, and that's just like the cherry on top.
Mhm.
And so I don't need that right now. Would it be? Do I want it? Yes. Do I need it right now? No.
I think it's important that you realize what sets people apart, because it's not just the winning, especially for Dana. Like it does matter the performance you put on. So that's very good that you noticed that and that you're looking to put on a performance. Random question. This is from Trey Melton. So, one celebrity you hate for no reason or explanation, if you have one.
Ooh, I don't know if I have one. Let me think.
I'm asking myself if I have one right now too,
I
and I
know. I know. It's tough.
Mhm.
I guess the only person I can think of is this is lame. I've heard that on the set of the Avengers that Brie Larson is kind of
Mhm.
can be kind of bitchy, and I'm like, I don't
Right,
like that. Like, why can't you
right,
just be nice? But that's the like I don't know her.
right.
I don't know her at all.
Could
But
be
that
true, could
that
not
would
be
be the first
true.
thing that comes to mind.
Right. No, that's I can't even think of one myself. So that was a tough question. Another one for you. Are you a full-time fighter?
I am. I surely am. Like I said, that was the longest period of time I've ever taken off. I usually fight usually every 3 months or so. So
Key points she reminds herself throughout the fight. Is there anything that you're reminding yourself while you're in there in the octagon?
um yeah, and it's something that I've actually been trying to grow into a little bit more is using that positive self-talk. Um, being like my weight fluctuated a lot as a kid. I'm kind of a little bit awkward and weird.
Mhm.
So I have a lot of self-confidence issues. And being in the cage when you're in front of thousands of people, it it shines bright any self-conscious issue like self-confidence issues that you have.
Yeah.
um so really just trying to remind myself that like I can do this, like I'm here for a reason, where and my coach wouldn't put me somewhere that he didn't think I could do my best. So I just the biggest thing is I just tell myself I can do this.
And I've seen you say that a few times in interviews, so I'll try to remember to ask you that right after. We only have a few more fan questions. Who do you think you can beat in the UFC?
Mm. um that's tough.
Mhm.
um I mean, I feel like the answer that a lot of people give you, I feel like I can be anybody. I can be anybody in the
That's
UFC,
actually from we've only
right?
interviewed 3 fighters, and that's literally what like anybody in the top 10, top 15. Well, actually, I feel I can beat anyone, which I respect. Like that's
Yeah.
the right. But yes, you're right. People say that
Yeah.
all the time. So I'm curious to see what you say as far as knowing that.
I think there's a couple people right now that we actually looked at fighting regionally that have made the
Right.
move up that will be, I think, would be a really good opportunity for me and that other fighter to kind of see what happens continuing forward with the UFC career. Elise Reed is one that we kept eyes on. I actually, shoot, what's her name? I just watched her. Marnik Man, is that her
Mm.
name? Yep, so we watched her as well. She was another one that we had potentially thought about fighting, and she just got a call up. Um, so there's not really I'm not gonna say I can beat anybody in the UFC. I'm not gonna say I can
Mm.
beat nobody in the UFC. I think that I trust my coach and my management team to put people in front of me that they think I'm gonna be able to beat, and again, the self-confidence issues play into that. I see myself one way and they see me a completely different
Right.
way, so it's the trust that I put in my team that really will put me on the top, I think.
And before we only have two more before that, since we were talking about fighters, why is it? I don't think they followed up on this question in the previous interview. I believe you said your favorite fighters, it was Corey Sandhagen and it was Rose Namajunas. There might have been one more. I don't know if it was Cody Garbrandt. I can't quite remember. I'm sure it was Sandhagen and Rose Namajunas were two of them. Is there a reason why those two specific fighters you have a liking to?
Rose Namajunas, I like her because she's been very open about her mental health struggle, and how difficult all of this is, and she proved that she was one of the best in the world. She had the belt. I believe she was the youngest female to hold the 115 belt, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. So again, that's just something really cool. Corey Sandhagen, I really, my head coach and I have watched him quite a bit. He is tall and long, has really long arms, and he uses his jab very, very well. And he switches very cleanly, and it's something that ideally I would like to integrate into my game as well. And then the other one was TJ Dillashaw. And again, I like.
That's the other one.
Yeah.
I said Cody Garbrandt. There was some kind of yes.
They're like neighbors. They're like neighbors.
Right. That's the one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I like Dillashaw a lot because of his style. Yeah. He's made there's been some controversy.
Absolutely. Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
EPO.
Yeah, but I watched a couple of his fights, and I watched him hit this takedown. I think I watched it 2 or 3 times, and now I hit it in the gym all the time because I think that like the way he fights and the way I fight kind of mirror each other a little bit. So I like to take pieces from all of these fighters and pull them in. Like Rose is the mental side, Sandhagen is his jab and his switching, and then like Dillashaw, he is really good at movement and sitting into his punches, and then he'll move and sit into his punches. His wrestling is great. So different pieces to kind of make me who I am.
No, that's perfect. Another 2 more for you only. So I know we put you under the spotlight. Who is your inspiration?
My future children.
Interesting.
Yeah, I want everyone when they're little is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a vet. I want to be an astronaut. And for as long as I can remember, all I've ever wanted to be is a mom. So like fighting is something that's been different, that I actually do want to do this, but I never would have imagined I wanted to do this when I was younger. And the ability to like start my family is something that I am sacrificing, and I am putting that on the altar to do this. Because I truly do love this, but I think that the goal is to still have a family when all of this is over.
That was probably the coolest answer I got for that question. It reminds me of like Oliveira. I remember Joe Rogan saying, because people were asking what switch. Remember, he was labeled as a quitter. People were not too high on him, and Rogan says when he had a daughter. So that was one of his biggest inspirations, and your future family is yours. So that's a very cool answer to hear. Last one, as far as fan questions, do you like to trash talk during a fight?
I don't. I'm not. I'm a terrible trash talker. Period. I think it's because I'm so awkward. I see people all the time. I'm like, hey, your hair looks great. Like it's a awkward interaction because I have to be really mad for something to happen. Actually, I think it was my first fight. My opponent was she never said anything mean, but she was like, she's going to regret stepping into the cage with me. And I'm like, that's very rude. I got like a little irritated about it. I'm like, that's really rude to say. And then at the end of the fight, she was so great and so nice. I talk to her on occasion now every time I run into her. So I don't have anything bad to say about her at all. It was just, I've never had someone that's been really heavy into the trash talk.
Not yet.
Not yet, right? And I guess that's just not the way I want my fight persona to be. I want it to be who I am, and who I am is stupidly nice and pretty annoying. And I love it.
And that all ties into, your inspiration is your future kids, why you started fighting. Those are all the fan questions. Guys, if you have any more, let me know. Hito, let me know through Discord if I should ask any other ones. Going back to something you said earlier, I was watching your interviews, and it's funny how you talk about yourself sometimes. You're very joking, like you joke about things quite often. You're short with the long arms, so you're like, my body's like perfect, randomly enough for fighting. But you have talked about anxiety and certain maybe mental hurdles that you have had before. How's that going for you nowadays going into your next fight?
It's getting better every single day, honestly.
Mhm.
The mental side of fighting for me is the hard part. Showing up to the gym every day, that's easy. Like training easy, lifting easy, running easy. The mental side of not defeating yourself is the hard part. And I am getting better every day. I see a therapist almost every week. And she's done a lot. And I think that it's important to acknowledge how difficult the mental side of this is. It's not as simple as everyone thinks. Like, oh, you just go out and you fight. Like, yes, you do, but there's 8 weeks build up to that where you're questioning yourself most of the time, and then you're walking out, and the roar of the crowd and everything. There's so many more pieces that go into this because people get into bar fights and they're like, yeah, I could be a fighter. It's like
Mhm.
it is different. Like you hold your own in a bar fight, that's great. But when you're walking out in front of thousands of people and the pressure of knowing you're going to be fighting in 6, 8, 10 weeks is significantly different. And it every single camp has gotten easier. And I focused a lot on my time off on my mental health and really trying to get myself in a position where I could move forward as a stronger mental athlete. And I think that I really started to find that spot.
Is a tougher part, I guess, than everything leading up to the fight, and then once you're in the octagon, does that go all out for you? I guess is a safe way to put it. And has that been getting easier fight after fight?
Yeah, most definitely. It does get
Mhm.
easier after each fight. Usually, camp is the hardest. It's the
Mhm.
build up, and you have one bad session, and you're like, I'm crap. And then you
Mhm.
have one great session, like, I'm the best. And then you have another bad
Yeah.
session, and balancing all of those out. Um, but like I said, now for me, the walkout um, is pretty fun for me now because it's usually my friends and my family and my
Mhm.
fans. So I am pretty welcomed on my way out. And as soon as that door locks, it's business time.
And you always throw up a smile when you're in there, which is fascinating to see. And tell me a little bit about your team, Young's MMA, as far as helping you mentally in the lead up to fights. And is there anything, two-part question, is there anything that you're focused on more as of recent for this particular fight, whether it's striking, jujitsu, or anything in general?
So my team has been amazing. I can't remember when it was, maybe 2017, 2016.
Mhm.
Young's MMA was voted the top MMA team in New England. Um, and since that happened, there has been some major changes to the team. We've lost some people. Um, whether good terms or bad terms, people have separated from the gym, and now we're in a rebuilding phase. And right now, the team that we're rebuilding is amazing. Um, we have everyone that's there wants to be there. There's no egos in the room. Um, and even if they are, it's so small and minuscule that we can all be supportive of each other without it turning into an argument. We actually have quite a few fighters on this card. I think this is one of the biggest cards that we'll have had in quite a few years. I've really been the only one that's active for maybe 2, 3 years. I think we have 6 fighters on this card, which is big for us. So we're really excited about that. And all of our team, we're all so different, but we all mesh together really well. And I think that that's going to show on fight night for a lot of our team.
And as far as your relationship with New England Fights and Neff, how has that been thus far?
Very, very good. My head coach actually was in the process of getting ready to start his own promotion when the NEF started.
Mhm.
And the owner, Matt Peterson, called and was like, hey, why don't you not do this? And let's have like a really good working relationship. And I'll get your guys on this card. And that's what they decided to do. And my head coach has always kept a really strong relationship with Matt Peterson. And now I have built a pretty strong relationship with Matt Peterson. And I think fighters underestimate, again, the importance of the loyalty. I guess that I
Absolutely.
spoke about earlier, the loyalty to a fight promoter. Promoters, they are doing their job. Like their job is to put on fights,
Right.
but they want recognition as well. And
Absolutely.
if I fight, so say I've been fighting for the NEF for however long, and then I go do one fight at, we'll just say LFA.
Mhm.
And then LFA, after that fight, I get the call up to the UFC. It looks better for LFA than it does for NEF when NEF has helped me so much in my career. So we really do want to try to stay with the NEF as long as we possibly can. I know a lot of people have said, like, oh, like she shouldn't be only fighting in Maine, she should be fighting other places. I get offers to fight other places. We just don't take them. I've had promotions be like, we will get you whatever fight you want. We just want you on the card. And I've had title offers. I've had offers from promotions all over. I've had European promotions as well. But the loyalty is important, and I think that that's really what's gonna help elevate my career a little bit faster, even than other athletes.
And Neff has been doing a good job. I was scrolling through their Instagram and their quality of videos, their post-fight interviews, everything. They've been doing quite great. You're headlining now. What are your plans heading into the main event, November 11th? If you could talk to us a little bit about this fight, what are your plans? What are you trying to do in the octagon? Anything different? Anything you want to focus on without giving too much away?
Again, I'm one of those like fly by the seat of my pants. I go out and I just do whatever happens.
Mhm.
I think ideally working on being more comfortable with the striking and all of that. And then once you find that comfort, I think being able to like open the gates and let whatever comes out comes out. So right now, I think it's going to be just going out there, get a little bit of comfort, feel her out, all that, and then see what happens. Because she is I can't remember how many boxing fights she had in the past couple of years, but she hasn't fought MMA in about 2 years. So this will be back for her after 2 years, back for me after 9 months. So I think it's really gonna be a fun fight.
And that'll be November 11th versus Shauna Ormsby. And Glory, thank you so much for coming to the stream. Anybody you want to shout out?
Everybody. Actually, so obviously my team,
Yep.
I kind of been doing that the whole time. Head coach Chris Young would not be able to do this without him right now. Especially the mental side of things. Like I said, we spend a lot of time together. We drive to and from gyms 2+ hours away. Most half the time we don't say anything. We never listen to music.
Mhm.
So it's conversation or there's no conversation. We're both just thinking about everything that's going on. So definitely my head coach, my team, the team at Central Maine Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, the team at the academy, and then a shout out to so this past week there was a pretty terrible car accident in Portland that involved the head coach of the academy,
Oh
and
man.
yeah, involved J Jack, and things ended up he ended up surviving. The other driver
Yeah.
died. They lost their new puppy in the accident.
Oh man.
But Jay is someone that has really been very helpful for me in learning to balance the mental side of things because he is one of the mentally strongest people I've met, from especially from where he came from. He has built everything himself. He's done everything himself. And then one of his athletes, Paul Gorman, is very instrumental and has been instrumental in in my past two camps and changed my game a lot. And then we have other athletes that come in from first class. We have some from Dragonfire, Shays. So we have athletes from everywhere that are coming and helping me out right now. So I just shouting out those people is really important to me, like my team and basically every team that I get to work with, because they're helping me get better and I can't thank them enough.
And I'll export this video. I'll make sure I ask you all your sponsors. I'll throw that up in the description. Glory, it seems to be that you're in a great mental state. You have a lot to fight for. Jay, you have your head coach, which I'm intrigued to learn more about. It's such an interesting dynamic, the relationship that you guys have. You also have the support of your family. You owe your sister an armbar. So I know you can't force it, but if it presents itself, maybe look out for her and get that done. But Glory, once again, thank you for coming on the show. Maybe we could have you after the fight. I know a lot of people in the chat, they really enjoyed hearing your story and would like to hear more. So thanks again, Glory, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was great.
Thank you, Glory. All right, you have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Thank you, Glory. There you have it, guys. Glory Watson, ladies and gentlemen. Was fascinating to hear her story. Learned a lot about her. Let me know your thoughts in the chat, how you guys feel about her as a fighter, about her as a person, and her upcoming event. I will keep you guys updated because she has done us or she's been generous enough to come on and share her story. So in return, we're going to be making sure that we watch the fights, that we keep you guys updated. And if she's available for a post-fight interview, we can maybe do that as well to promote her as much as we can, because she has big aspirations, and I would love to see the future of her career play out. So once again, guys, also thank you for all the fan questions. You guys have asked amazing fan questions, guys. So I'll make sure I catch up with chat in a second. I see Naxu said 1FC. I mean, her future is bright. I do really appreciate how loyal she is to her team. We've been very lucky. The Dumas, the Johnny Campbells, and now Glory Watson, the Alex Caceres. We've had fighters that are not only incredible in the octagon, but also as people as well too. So great to have her on, and I hope we can have her back on. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. I'll make sure after this stream that I cut it up and then I post it. I'll make sure I send it out to her team and her as well. Rick Grimes says, let's go. Good stuff, man. Rick Grimes, welcome back, man. I saw you on Saturday. We had some fun covering UFC 294. We've been growing this community, man. There's always the same names, always the same people, hundreds of views, almost at 8.1K. So thank you, Rick Grimes, for coming through. Steve Williams in the building. Hollywood Hito, super dope human being. Yeah, I mean, I loved specifically her answer to the question, who's your inspiration? A lot of times you hear, one of my favorite fighters is this, or, my mom, or, a relative. She's thinking about her future kids, which is just quite fascinating, and the legacy that she'll leave behind. So that was a really cool answer. Maybe we make a short on that as well too. And but yeah, let's promote her. Let's as far as the female fighters and fighters like herself, we would love to see how their career plays out, and we're part of the story as far as getting to hear what she has to say and building her up, and I'm sure any support helps. So thank you for those that were watching. Matt Peterson says, phenomenal interview. Thank you Matt, for allowing this to happen. We appreciate you. Hito 609, thank you for Hollywood Hito, thank you for working that out behind the scenes. So Matt Peterson, thank you. Hopefully we could talk some more, but once again, we appreciate you. Steve Williams says, solid interview, Miller. The fan questions come in clutch, guys, because it's like fire rapid questions. They're almost like, as far as the people being interviewed, the fighters, they're almost forced to like tell the truth and to like think on the spot. So thank you, guys. We're gonna keep doing that with other fighters as well too. So thank you. We're gonna talk about UFC 294 tonight. Just a couple of housekeeping things that we have to get off. UFC 294, we covered that this Saturday. We will be doing that tonight, as far as having a back and forth with Trey Melton. Not to pat ourselves on the back, but we swept the card as far as our predictions. Trey, our co-host tonight, got every single fight wrong. He picked Volkanovski to win. He picked Usman to win. So we'll have some fun making fun of him and talking about that as well too. So make sure you're here tonight. We've been live for so Hito, maybe you can call it for me. Do we talk about a bit about UFC 294, or do we save it for tonight? You let me know. How many hours from now? Okay, yeah, because I know you're overseas. It is currently, for me, almost 1 p.m. So we're going to try to be live at 7 p.m. So about 6 hours from now. I'll make sure I schedule it, so hopefully you get the notification. So hit the bell for post notifications and all that. One more time, Wahito lets me know exactly what he thinks is best, because there's a lot to cover. I'm kind of just stuck on, as far as right now, the interview. What were your guys' thoughts? Glory Watson fighting November 11th, headlining the event. I'm excited to see her fight, guys. Again, I wish I could almost watch it. Of course, says Hito, I wish I could almost watch it on stream and show you guys the screen, as far as how her previous fights have gone. If we quickly look, just to talk about it a little bit, she's going to be fighting November 11th, and real quick, boom, there we go. I saw her last two fights, so I'll make sure I watched the rest of them too. But against Gabriella, we got the behind the scenes as far as what was exactly on her mind. That was at 125. She talked about her struggles with the weight, feeling small. Then she fought Hillary Rose at 115. And you could tell the difference, I guess, there as far as how comfortable she felt. And she did have an injury before the Hillary Rose fight, but it seems like to me she's learning a lot as she goes, and she's from a small state where maybe they don't have she spoke about it herself, maybe there's not that much expertise as far as the weight cutting aspect, or maybe chiropractors or people behind the scenes that are supposed to help besides the gym, because she's very happy where she's at now with her gym and with her head coach. And nonetheless, she's making a name for herself. I'll post the links of her fights later today, and you can just see the development, especially in her last two fights, and how comfortable she looks. She was standing toe-to-toe with an experienced kickboxer in Hillary Rose, and the way she fought in the pocket, and then when she got the opportunity to maybe fight out of the clinch more or grapple, she jumped on it. The same way I made the comparison of Grasso versus Shevchenko. She kind of did the same. It almost seemed like she was drilling. And then she also said as well too that it was one of her old friends, as far as telling her behind the scenes that, hey, she was practicing this in her locker room and with her team. And she jumped on the opportunity, man. It's great to see someone develop the way that she has been developing. So hopefully we can talk to her some more in the future. UFC 294, we have two voicemails, so we'll play them in a second. Makhachev gets it done versus Volkanovski, which is, I'm impressed by the knockout, underwhelming card. How many hours from now? So yes, about 6 to 7 hours. Merchant says, LOL, I'll be there maybe. I believe it's going to be what, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. for you, or something along those lines. So I know it's tough, Merchant. I appreciate the support. Every stream that we have, you're always showing up and hanging out. So thank you, man. We're building a strong community, and I'm excited to see the future. Glory's opponent is formidable too. Shauna Ormsby is a brown belt in BJJ, and if you look at her record, she's lost a lot of decisions against very high-level opposition. I'll make sure I do my due diligence as far as her as well too. She's going to be fighting Shauna Ormsby November 11th. She's fighting out of Orlando, Florida, affiliation Carson Gracie. She's a brown belt, and she will be fighting Glory Watson, born in Buffalo, New York. So I'll make sure, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she's had some kickboxing matches as well too. So she's been quite active. I truly can't wait for that card. I'll be making sure, I hope you guys have like a pay-per-view or a link to the live stream. So I'll be trying to cover it as well too, and just follow it, Matt Peterson. So thank you. I'm excited. It's great to see Glory headlining a card as well. She seems like she's in a mental space where she's, and we'll ask her this maybe after the fight, she seems like, as far as mentally, the best she's ever been, as far as the confidence, the mental aspect, as far as the fighting game. She's putting on some muscle, so maybe a little bit of difficulty, but nothing that she's not going to fix as far as the weight cutting. But you could tell she's in the right frame of mind. So I'm expecting some a great fight between her and Shauna. I'll be making sure to watch her fights as well too, and see how we feel about those. Oh, now you're impressed by that. I said it in the short, Hito. I was impressed by the knockout, but overall, as far as the card, UFC 294, come on now. Like, let's go from top to bottom. Makhachev, Volkanovski. First fight was a war. The conversation being at hand, and we got some voicemails we're going to play in a little bit. The conversation at hand was, or prior to the fight, the first fight was a war. If Volkanovski had 1 minute, maybe 45 seconds, many felt that Volkanovski perhaps could have finished Makhachev. So knowing all that, heading into the rematch, and again, there was a lot of factors too that people weren't in love with. 11 days notice for one of the biggest fights of your life. You're trying to become a double champ. 11 days notice. You also have the surgery as well too. You're somewhat off the couch. Nonetheless, with their experience between both fighters, how they have felt each other before in the octagon, is it safe to say that we expected a strong back and forth? I'm not saying that Makhachev would have nonetheless got a knockout in, I don't know, the second, the third, or the fourth. I thought we were gonna see a bit more back and forth. Is that safe to say? Let's see what we have a caller, so let's play the first call of the morning podcast. Let's get right to it while we catch up with chat. Your chameleon says Merchant says that's fine though, no work today anyways. Let's go, Merchant. Hopefully you can hear Trey have a million excuses tonight.
Oh, what's up, Melody DC? This is Chris Face talking.
Chris Faith, thank you for calling in. I believe he's going to give us our opinion on UFC 294 and the aftermath. Let's play it. Here we go.
Let me just say this. So let's talk about the aftermath of UFC 294. Since Islam defeated Volkanovski, I think it's simple. Well, according to Dana White, he said he wants to redo the match between him and Charles. That depends if Charles Oliveira doesn't get another scratch on his eye like the last time.
He says another scratch on his eye. Dana White said post-fight interview that it should be Oliveira. He just suffered an injury, so that's what it seems like he's leaning towards, is the Oliveira rematch. If not Oliveira, I would like to see Gaethje. We've seen Gaethje make some public statements as well too, but I think it will be Oliveira next.
But I know people are saying Justin Gaethje should be next. I respect that, but if they want to
Speaking of the devil,
do Oliveira again, that's fine. But understand this: Oliveira gets cut one more time, then Justin Gaethje jumps in. So,
right? Yeah, if for some reason he has to pull out of the fight, then I think Gaethje is the next formidable opponent and the one that rightfully deserves a shot, especially after beating Dustin Poirier.
Volkanovski, something tells me since he lost, something tells me there's going to be another upset between him versus Ilya Topuria.
Wow, that's a bold prediction. I like Topuria. I picked him to beat Bryce Mitchell. I think he's the future. Now, if he fights Max Holloway next, it's a little bit scary. That guy is like the best gatekeeper as far as the featherweight division, and that almost sounds like some shade towards Max Holloway. I just don't think. I think Volkanovski is that good, but besides that, so is Holloway, and he has been knocking the pins down in a sense. You saw the Arnold Allen fight or anybody else that tries to jump up and get a title shot. It's almost as if Holloway takes care of them. Yair Rodriguez as well too.
I respect Volkanovski, but I have a feeling there's going to be an upset in January. Oh, Johnny Walker and Ankalaev, it should be.
Let's hear Chris Faith's opinion on the Johnny Walker thing, because that was a letdown to say the least. See what he has to say.
It was ridiculous that it ended in a no contest. And he told the referee that, or the doctor, that he was in the desert. He was like, the doctor replied saying, I'll say the next voice message.
Yeah, maybe the whole I'm in the desert. The doctor's like, nope, not good enough of an answer. There was a language barrier as well too. 267-545-8096. If you want to share your thoughts on UFC 294, you can also share your thoughts on the interview with Glory Watson. Let's play the next voicemail. Oh, but before we do, also real quick as well too, Merchant with the silver glove, thank you for being a member, Merchant. He says, full camp Makhachev with prior knowledge of enemy versus 11 days notice Volk. It's expected. So you think the finish wouldn't have happened with Volkanovski having a full fight camp? People are saying that no matter how much time he would have had, that being Volkanovski, he couldn't prep for that head kick. An interesting counter argument is people saying, specifically one of my comments on Instagram, he said, you gotta keep in mind that he cut so much weight so fast that if he had a full training camp, perhaps I know it sounds like we're coping or trying to cover up, but perhaps if he didn't rush to lose so much weight, that head kick that landed, maybe he would have took it just a bit better as far as trying to recover from it. But because he cut so much weight so quickly coming off the couch after the surgery, I think he blew up to around 180 pounds. Perhaps he would have took that shot well. Do you guys subscribe to that opinion, or is that people just making excuses for Volkanovski? What about Gamrot? Merchant says, who? Question mark. You spelled it actually right. It is Gamrot, just like that. Volk to Max is Islam to Volk. Doubt in the first fight, dominance. Doubt in the first fight, dominance in the last fight, says Merchant. Mateus Gambra, I was right. Yes. Oh, the guy that was supposed to be the backup but got ignored. He got ignored simply because, in my opinion, by the way, if you're just getting here, we just interviewed Glory Watson. I'll be exporting that video later, and we'll talk about that fight. But thank you again to Glory Watson and her team. 267-545-8096 if you want to share your thoughts on UFC 294. Merchant says the backup that got ignored. Why did he get ignored? I think it's pretty simple, guys, and maybe no shade to Dana, but it has become what it has become. That being, Gamrot is not that big of a name. Imagine, and I don't blame Dana or the UFC. Imagine if when we found out the news that Oliveira is out for UFC 294, imagine the response if the public statement instead of Volkanovski would have been, and stepping, I'm doing my worst Dana White impression, and stepping in for Oliveira is Mateus Gamrot, the number 2, or I think it's like number 4, ranked fighter in the lightweight division. He'll be stepping in Abu Dhabi, UFC 294. Video ends, right? His Instagram reel or video ends. I assume, you guys could tell me if I'm wrong, we could have a debate back and forth. I'm assuming the comment section would have been majority, well, that sucks. Well, nobody wants this fight. Oh, ruined the card. Oliveira ruined the card because he got cut. Oh, he was sloppy in his sparring and it's his fault. And now maybe you're going to hear the complainers saying, I'm not going to order the pay-per-view. I'm not going to pay $80 for Gamrot versus Islam Makhachev. Do you think it would have been something like that? I do believe it would have been something like that. Or you think people would have been like, oh, great for Gamrot. He deserves it. I doubt it would have been the diehard fans that would say that. I don't think it would have been the majority. So that's why he got ignored. And is it justified? In my opinion, in a sense, it is. Let's get to the next voicemail. 267-545-8096 to share your thoughts on UFC 294.
This is me talking again. So back to Ankalaev versus Walker. I'm not gonna lie. This is not the first time that a match between Ankalaev had to be stopped and declared a no contest. This is like the second time from last year with John Blachowicz, and no, I remember the doctor asked Walker. He said, "Where are you at right now?" Johnny Walker replied saying the desert, but I could take that like, well, I know what he mean by the desert because the UAE, Abu Dhabi, is located in a country that has the desert, Middle East and stuff. But that doctor was retarded. So Usman versus Chimaev, well, I think Usman should take a leave of absence. If not, he should go down to welterweight to go fight the winner of Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Wonderboy Thompson. There's no place for him to fight in middleweight now.
Oh, I can't wait to have this conversation. Give me 1 second. Let's rewind that a bit because I can't wait to talk about this one.
He should go down to. I think Usman should take a leave of absence.
There we go.
Chimaev, well, I think Usman should take a leave of absence.
And we'll talk about this some more with Trey later tonight. But he says I think he should take a leave of absence. That being Usman.
If not, he should go down to welterweight to go fight the winner of Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Wonderboy Thompson.
Which is a tough fight against Shavkat. Stephen Thompson, it'll essentially probably become a striking match. And I think fans will want to see that. Usman, a former champ in the welterweight division. Stephen Thompson, a fan favorite. And Stephen Thompson has said he wanted that fight. For him, it could almost be a sign of if he beats Usman, he could potentially fight for the title in the future as well, too. That's the fight he wanted before.
There's no place for him to fight in middleweight now.
But there's no place, man. If he would have beat Chimaev, there's a Dricus fight that he could have had because they had prior beef before. Maybe even the Sean Strickland fight. It was expected the winner between Chimaev and Usman was gonna fight for the title. So there were options for Usman if he would have won the fight. Because he came up short, and it was a majority decision too. It was a close one. Because of that, maybe a good amount of fans feel that there's not many options for him. So the options that Chris gives is maybe the winner between Shavkat and Stephen Thompson.
Look what Volkanovski did. He fought in lightweight twice this year, and look what happened. So no, Usman better not share the same face like Volkanovski. I'm sorry, but if Usman doesn't want to compete, then he should take a leave.
And I might disagree with you a little bit. We'll talk about it in a second.
And come back with a next game plan strategy. That's all.
I have an unpopular opinion. Thank you again, Chris Faith, for the call. 267-545-096. Teron Brown in the chat as well. Tehran, welcome to the stream. Thank you for always coming through and hanging out. As far as Usman, let me take a seat for a little bit because we've been standing for like an hour. As far as Usman, I had to grab the chair for a second. As far as Usman, you guys might hate me for this one. I think the general consensus, guys, I could be wrong, but the general consensus was if he loses, that being Usman, he should retire. You heard a bunch of people saying that. I am here to tell you guys, not only do I disagree, and just hear my argument for a second, not only do I disagree, I was sort of impressed by how good Usman looked in the octagon. Let me explain.
Shout the season, man.
First round, Khamzat Chimaev takes his back and maybe try to be honest, chat, because some people are too cool for school, right? Let's be honest. When Khamzat took his back in the first round, and you might disagree with me, let me know in the chat. I believe most thought, oh, it's about to be over. Khamzat already got taken him down. The whole conversation was, if Khamzat can't take him down, it could be a close fight. If Khamzat does, it's over. Well, he takes him down pretty early in the first round. Usman, for the most part, I mean, he wasn't offensive on the bottom, but for the most part, he did a decent job at defending the chokes, taking minimal punishment. You saw that against Leon Edwards in their second fight in the first round. Leon took his back, but wasn't really able to capitalize. I thought, oh man, if Chimaev does that himself, he has great jiu-jitsu. He's gonna be he's not Leon Edwards. If anything, he gets the back, it's over. I think that's safe to say. Usman did generally a good job at defending the chokes and taking minimal punishment. I forgot to put that on voicemail. We have a call from 312. I'm gonna put it on Do Not Disturb. Leave a voicemail and I'll play live on stream. I'm not sure exactly who that is. So make sure you leave a voicemail. I forgot to put Do Not Disturb. Anyways, Usman did generally a decent job defending. Not only that, people were kind of criticizing him for, oh, it looks like he hurt his knee, warming up for the fight. He's over the hill, not only past his prime, he should retire. I was quite impressed with his performance coming off the couch. Remember, it wasn't at the weight that he usually fights at. Coming off the couch, fighting at 185, his very first fight. If anything, I was impressed. And not only not impressed, I want to see him back in the octagon. I thought if he got taken down, he'll get choked out. It wouldn't be good for him. Not only did that not happen, come round two, he was getting the better of Chimaev. The first half of that second round, he was defending the takedowns and landing some big shots. He got taken down about the last minute and 20 of the second round. But as far as striking, oh yeah, leave a voicemail, Tehran, and with your thoughts on UFC 294, we'll do like a live reaction. Unless you want to have a conversation back and forth, we could do that as well too. Let me know which one you prefer. I just thought whoever was calling was trying to leave a voicemail. Let me know if you want to have a back and forth or leave a voicemail. We'll do either one. Round two, he was getting the better of Khamzat Chimaev, landing some clean punches. Credit to Chimaev taking the punches quite well. I thought, because he didn't look that great against Gilbert Burns as far as striking, if Gilbert Burns was able to hurt him in the stand-up, I thought Usman, perhaps if landing, would hurt him even worse. But no, Chimaev took the punches quite well and kept going for takedowns and landed some of his own. Round number three, Khamzat got the takedown again. I think that's essentially what won him the match. I believe one judge gave him a 10-8 round, and it ended up being a majority decision win for Khamzat. Good fight, nonetheless. Good, maybe not the best fight to rewatch, but I personally enjoyed the matchup. Now, what's next for both fighters? Let's talk about that. 267-545-8096. If you want to share your thoughts on UFC 294. What's next for both fighters? Well, we look at the UFC rankings, which I'm sure they haven't updated yet because they take about 2 to 3 days in order to do so. So we're not going to see Usman. We're not going to see Khamzat Chimaev in the middleweight rankings, right? Kamaru Usman is still the number 1 ranked fighter in the welterweight division. As far as Chimaev, he's supposed to be fighting Sean Strickland next. I made a short you guys may have seen recently where that was me trying to call in full camp. Usman with 5 rounds would have beaten Khamzat. If it were 5 rounds, I think that's a safe prediction. Usman was picking up the pace. Khamzat looked to have been fading to Tehran. Also, Tehran, let me know if you want to leave a voicemail, or if you want me to pick up, just let me know, and I'll make sure I take the do not disturb off. But if you want to leave a voicemail, that's perfect as well too. If it were a 5-round fight, I think that's safe to say Usman looked like he was, as far as his gas tank, better than Khamzat. That has always been a criticism of Khamzat Chimaev. His gas tank, and he hasn't gone a full 5. How does he do against Sean Strickland? Early prediction. Let's give some. For an early prediction of Khamzat and Sean Strickland, if Khamzat is able to recover, if Khamzat is able to for his next fight, for it to be for the title, which doesn't necessarily make sense, right? I think that's safe to say. He doesn't necessarily deserve the shot next, but nonetheless, that's what's supposed to happen. Early predictions, this is me thinking out loud. We'll talk a little bit with this with Trey Melton afterwards. I think Khamzat is a nightmare for Sean Strickland with the wrestling in the first 2 rounds. If Sean Strickland is able to survive, this is always the what if with Chimaev. If someone could survive the early onslaught, it almost seems like he's somewhat of a front runner. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in as far as he's so explosive in the first 2 rounds. If Sean Strickland is able to stop the takedowns and it essentially become a striking match at 185, I don't think he's that much of a quote unquote demon at 185 as compared to what he was at 170. At 170, you look at his performances. My man Chimaev was blowing past his opponents. Do you guys remember the Gerald Mia shirt where he actually won by KO? But if you guys remember the Li Jingliang fight where he picked up Lee, carrying him around, looking at the crowd, looking at Dana White, and having a conversation with Dana. I smash everybody. I smash everybody. That was his that's his phrase, his go-to phrase. He looked like a force that could not be stopped. That being Chimaev at 170, right? Then he fights Gilbert Burns. And at 170, that's the first time, in my opinion, Chimaev looked human. And justifiably so, because that's the first time that he fights someone in the top 5, someone that is extremely dangerous and a fighter that is a veteran. Prior to that, it was John Phillips, Rice McKee, Gerald Mearshart, Li Jingliang. People thought, man, Khamzat is going to run through everybody. Then he fights Gilbert Burns. He looked human at 170. Next fight, he fights against Kevin Holland. He gets a Darce choke in the first round. Then he fights Usman at 185. I do think he's not going to be the same force at 185. And man, I thought I was leaning towards Chimaev to beat Sean Strickland at 185. Is it okay in 2023, guys, before the year ends? Is it okay to change our minds? Because if it is, right now, I'm leaning towards Sean Strickland. I'm leaning towards Sean Strickland to beat Khamzat Chimaev.
You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers.
I mean, it's pretty simple. Stop the takedowns, beat him in the striking department. Land that stiff jab, heavy hips, keep your distance. Remember, Usman came off the couch and still did a great job defending takedowns. I might be leaning towards Sean Strickland to beat Khamzat Chimaev. Foolishness or not? 267-545-8096. Leave a voicemail and I will react to your thoughts on Sean Strickland, Chimaev, and just our prior conversations. Give me 1 second, chat, while I do something real quick. It might sound like absolute foolishness, and that's okay. I don't expect you. You don't have to agree with me, but is there any world where Sean Strickland stops the takedowns and he wins, or is that ludicrous? Let's catch up with chat. Mason Herring says Chimaev in round 1. Wow, the way he beat Li Jingliang was wild. I agree, Mason. It was not only incredible to see. It was when he came onto the scene, I couldn't believe my eyes. Most people couldn't have. He looked that dominant. He looked that special. But 185 is a different animal. Now he's fighting the upper echelon of the division at 185. Now, if he made 170, right? I will admit, if he could still make 170, I think he almost runs through everyone there. Let me see. I think he does quite well against Leon. I think he does take it to the ground if it's at 170. Kobe Covington, I think Hamza would have. That's a tough fight with the wrestling aspect. That's a tough fight for him. But 185, that's 15 more pounds. I don't think he's going to be that much of a force. I'm not saying he absolutely doesn't win. I'm just saying Hamza Chimaev is not the boogeyman that he once was at 170. Is that safe to say? Is that fair to say? 267-545-8096. Tehran says Hamza barely beat Burns at 172. So imagine at 185. Merchant says Hamza always tries to double leg his opponent in the first few seconds. Agreed. If he doesn't get it, he gets tired. If he don't, he gets tired. I'm sorry. If Strickland defends that, he can start walking down Hamzat. I 100% agree with you. I might die on the hill of Sean Strickland beats Hamzat. I might die on that hill. I might be like the more I think about it, the more I like it. The more I say, you know what? Sean Strickland beats this guy. And you got to remember too, nobody was giving Sean Strickland a chance to beat Adesanya. Maybe you can say Adesanya, he was having an off night. You saw the news afterwards that he was drinking and driving. Maybe he wasn't there all the way mentally. Who knows if more excuses come out in the future. At the end of the day, he beat a fighter that he wasn't supposed to on paper. I think he was like a plus north of 350. He was like around a 400 to 500 underdog. And he gets the job done. That being Sean Strickland. I'm just saying, Adesanya was supposed to just outstrike him. I think his style gave Adesanya, of course, in hindsight, it's easy to say, gave him trouble. Now, against Hamza Chimaev, again, $1 million question. We could do what ifs all day, but if he's not able to take down Sean Strickland, that jab could be somewhat of a nuisance. And there's enough power there to knock down someone like Adesanya. What about in the 4th or 5th round if Chimaev is extremely winded? Chimaev has been hurt by a smaller guy like Gilbert Burns. So imagine if Sean Strickland connects. The more I think about it, ladies and gentlemen, the more I'm liking this pick. That might be the way to go. Now, he did suffer a hand injury, that being Chimaev. So he might be out for a bit. Maybe he doesn't get the shot, and maybe it's Dricus. Who do you guys like for that? As far as that matchup, AK, welcome to the stream, man. Thank you always for coming through, man. AK has been, I think he found us through TikTok, and he's been coming through almost every stream. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate the ongoing support. AK says he totally looked unstoppable, but as we find with all fighters, they are human. Unpopular opinion. I think the longer Khabib would have stayed in the octagon, the more he would have eventually been able, or the possibility of him being figured out could have potentially happened, right? This is not a hate Khabib stream, but at the end of the day, he essentially fought strikers. There was nobody really there that stylistically would have given him any kind of trouble. Hamzat, as he goes up the division, as the sport improves and fighters improve, especially against that Dagestani style of wrestling, it's going to get tougher for fighters like Hamzat Chimaev, for fighters like Magomed Ankalaev, and for just the Dagestani fighters in general. Mokaev, even though he fights out of England, but he's originally from Dagestan. You see a lot of these fighters are now having more of a tough time getting the fights to the canvas, besides maybe like a Bo Nickel, who I think is a future. Merchant says, Sean is the true American. Deshaun Strickland, says Merchant. I forgot. I'm going to stop calling him Sean Strickland from now on. Is going to be Deshaun. I told someone that in the last stream. Hollywood Hito says with the red glove, "You're a bum, and I don't plan on associating with you ever again." Because of my Sean Strickland pick. I mean, listen. Let's go back a little bit. I was right about Sean O'Malley. I was right about Leon Edwards. I've swept the last card. UFC 292 and 291, I destroyed. Now, granted, I picked out a sign to pick Sean Strickland to be Sean Strickland. But besides all that, my predictions have been on point. We go on a fight-by-fight basis. And Hito, I'm just saying, if you want to get your lunch money taken, and if you want to throw a little bread on that, maybe I already do owe you some money, but nonetheless, if it does happen, I would gladly take your money. The more I think about it, the more I like it. Sean Strickland defeats Chimaev. I think he gets the job done. AK says, yes, bro. Strickland is a fighter, like, just loves fighting. Like Chimaev, we, the fans, win when these fights happen. I'm assuming you meant today. Meant to say, Trey Melton, I mentioned you earlier. Yes. Podcast tonight, a good back and forth that we'll have. Speaking of your picks, they were horrible, and I can't wait to speak about that with you tonight around 7 p.m. Eastern time. Teron Brown says, I would love to see Hamzat versus Bo Nickal at some point. I think they're gonna, just as a business, in the business side of things, it doesn't benefit them to match him up this early. Of course, as fans, do we want to see that? Yes. I think they're gonna build that up a little bit more. I think they're gonna with Bo Nickal give him, someone in the top 10 and top 5. I think they're gonna, because they already fast tracked him a little bit. I think they're gonna slow down quite a bit now. And even if Chimaev were to be Sean Strickland, I don't think they give Bo Nickal the shot anytime soon. I think they're gonna want to build that up. I do think Bo Nickal is the future though. Bo Nickal is the next best thing in the UFC, says Hito. I agree. Has to be careful with the striking, of course, because he comes from a wrestling background. But that style of wrestling, in my opinion, I think he troubles Chimaev greatly. I don't think Chimaev gets a takedown on Bo Nickal, to be quite honest. Unless Bo Nickal's winded, unless we find ourselves later in the fight. Hollywood Hito says, did y'all forget that Sean Strickland himself said Hamzat effed him up in training? Training and fighting in the octagon are two very different things. Merchant says, I mean Khabib. And you saw Sean Strickland, he kind of like dismissively said, oh, now we're talking about training, as if to say like training and fighting is, they're two different things. Merchant says, I mean Khabib. Makhachev is here. Basically the second Khabib with better striking. I just see it as that if Makhachev gets beaten now, let's treat it as Khabib lost his as well, says Merchant too. Makhachev brings something different to the table because he has striking. But I'll say this, Merchant, I think Khabib's wrestling was way more dominant. I do feel strongly about that. Like when he took you down, there was no getting out, and he was gonna ground and pound you. You saw that in his previous fights, where Makhachev wasn't able to do that against Volkanovski. If Khabib would have taken him down, I do believe he would have been at least been more successful in just being a bully. But what Khabib didn't have that Makhachev has is that striking. That's why you got to see the Makhachev head kick knockout. So I just think different fighters overall, in a sense. Strickland is beating Hamzat 6 out of 10. That's an interesting ratio, 6 out of 10. That's interesting. I don't know. I think 1 out of 10, or I think 1 out of 1. I think Sean Strickland gets it done, and we'll see. Question for you guys as well too. Do you think the UFC, and this is a question for you guys, do you think the UFC they wait on Chimaev, or do they skip him over? For one, Chimaev doesn't deserve the shot, but since he's getting it, what do you guys think? Would love to hear some thoughts. True says, Merchant, guys, we've been live for, by the way, too. Very fun stream. Glory Watson, if you're just getting here, was live with us earlier. I will be and I hate to, but I have to ask you guys, after this live stream, I am going to upload the Glory Watson, the interview of it on its own. Please, if I could just ask you guys anything, it costs you nothing, means the world to me. Just leave a comment in the interview on that video when it comes out. It just helps with the analytics, and it pushes it out to more people. Let's blow up these up and coming fighters. Trey Melton says, see you bumps tonight. I can't wait to hear your excuses about Volkanovski losing to Makhachev. You were wrong about Usman losing to Chimaev. You were wrong about. And once again, I I proved to you why I picked better. I warned you about Derek Lewis. You didn't want to take my advice. I told you about Sean O'Malley. You didn't want to take my advice. I was ahead of the game. Rick Grimes says, Usman said he wants Duplessis in the co-main of a potential Strickland versus Chimaev card. Thoughts? Dana White also said in the post-fight, because they asked him, what do you do next with Usman? And I'm paraphrasing a bit, but I'm sure most of you guys seen it. He said something along the lines of, Usman could do whatever he wants. He has stepped up to the plate every time we asked him to. He has accomplished so much. And what I know for a fact, he says, what he believes, to him, to Dana White, Kamaru Usman is the greatest welterweight of all time. To Dana White. All that to say, if he wants Duplessis, I think Dana White might want to make that happen and please Usman in that sense, which is okay. Who is the real source? Merchant, come on. You know the source isn't Trey Melton. Come on now. I only lost 4 fights on the entire card, so not bad, but rare. It is rare, 999. Maybe you didn't drink your, I don't know. Maybe you didn't take your vitamins this weekend or something, and because you usually sweep cards, everything will be broken down. Don't worry, says Trey Melton.
Shout the season, man.
It has been a lot of fun. Very, very fun stream, guys. Thank you guys for the ongoing support. Leave a comment when I export the video of Glory Watson. Let's keep following her career. She was an incredible guest on the show, and I can't wait to see her November 11th. We'll talk more UFC 294 tonight with none other than Trey Melton. Trey Melton has been having success at Wedgie's Golf Company. Go, feel free to put that link in the chat, Trey. And we'll catch you guys tonight. 7 p.m. show, maybe 7:30. I'll keep you guys updated through Discord, through Instagram, through Twitter, and all that. So be on the lookout for that. #1 commentary channel on YouTube. Be here tonight. God bless.